Welcome back, everybody. It is Wins Above Fantasy, episode 178, Thursday, May 22nd. For those of you on the podcast, for those of you on the live stream, welcome. Welcome back to Wins Above Fantasy. It's been uncharacteristic 2 weeks off, so excuse us for a little rust, but welcome to you, Steve. Welcome to the number 2 prospect in the Gesuele organization there. You're now a daddy of 2. Congratulations, man. I know we were talking offline. I know we've been texting, but I feel like this podcast has kind of charted both of our married lives into fatherhood and all the joys of that. So very much congratulations. What a game changer. I'm sure number 2 is, but yeah, man, I miss talking baseball with you. I know I told you to a much lesser extent. It's been a crazy 3 or 4 weeks for me with work and travel. Was up in Montreal, saw a ton of Expos merch, which was kind of fun. But I missed the pod, and I'm excited to be back on tonight. We are talking very thematically, checking in on the youngsters. We're looking at guys who either were new call-ups or new to the scene for baseball, and a lot of breakouts. It causes plenty of questions on speculation and how we kind of prioritize these guys. But a lot of exciting stuff tonight. Steve, how's it going, man? Again, congratulations and welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going well. Tired. Forgot. Sure. It is like riding a bike. You pick these things up quickly again, but your brain does a good job of making you forget all of the difficulties, I would say, or the struggles of having a few week old. Like you kind of forget about it. Like I joke with my wife joked, like when the baby was first born and we were in the hospital, the nurse was like, "Did you change a diaper?" She was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot we have to do that because like we just trained our now going to be 3-year-old last summer, and like forgot about diaper changing and all those things." So it's definitely been exciting. It's fun. Another girl, so 2 girls for me. So maybe they'll be more in the softball world or in those sort of prospects. But I'm sure they'll be into baseball one way or the other. I'll force them into it. Actually supposed to go to a Blue Claws game. I've actually moved in the last week of having a kid as well, so throw that on to our plate. So we've had a lot. Yeah, we bought a house, renovating a house, moved temporarily for the summer down the Jersey Shore, then moving back after.
Did you miss any starts or lineups? I'm sure you missed a fab run.
No, I did not miss a fab. I did not miss a fab. No.
Iron Man.
Iron Man. I remember after my first daughter was born, we potted like I think like 36 hours later. Yeah, yes. Or 24 hours later. It's a lot different this time, having to raise a newborn and having a 3-year-old screaming at you at the same time. It's a different type of battle and a busier battle in certain ways. So that wasn't necessarily possible, but happy to be back. I definitely missed the pod, and this was like our first. Like I don't think we've ever missed an in-season episode. I don't think we ever missed 2 weeks in a row. Like this is probably the longest we've gone without recording an episode in 5 years. So I'm glad to get back into it, and glad it's a fitting theme. Yeah. Rookie young hitters and pitchers.
Hey, any 10-day rolling average chart has a dip, and if that's, we got through it, but it is good to be back and good to have you back, man. That's, the only way I remember those first few weeks is on like Google Photos like 1 year ago. And I'm like, I don't even remember that photo. I don't remember being alive. I don't remember that moment. I was in a total blur. So yeah, hang in there. And hopefully this show is a needed little break. So we got a lot of names. So we're going to jump in. We're talking the youngsters. Again, this is young players. It could have been like the 23andMe show, because as I was listing out the ages, Steve, I think like 12 of the 14 guys are 23 years old. They don't have to necessarily be rookies, but
I think everyone on here is rookie eligible except for one guy.
Except one. Okay.
Yeah, it's the first guy we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Well, and we'll talk about a couple Cubbies out of the gate, and first and foremost, Pete Crow-Armstrong. I know you had in the rundown, shout out to Uncle Ted, who was singing. He was shouting about Pete Crow-Armstrong off the mountaintop as his signature move. And Pete Crow-Armstrong has done more than deliver. I'll admit he was not, I thought honestly at like a ADP 125, 130, where he ended up climbing, that maybe it was a little too inflated and you could have waited on like a Tommy Edman, but they've both been good. Peter Armstrong has been phenomenal, hitting 285 with an OPS that's flirting with 900, 12 homers, 13 steals, and already 38 runs and 39 RBIs on that fantastic Cubs offense to start the season. Last couple of weeks, he's got a 1018 OPS, and he's moved up in the order, Steve, where he was like, kind of bouncing around, but hitting seventh at times. In the past couple of weeks, he has hit leadoff, and cleanup only. So what's the ceiling here? What are we thinking with Pete Crow-Armstrong? Is this like a breakout in all caps, or do you have any reservations of what's going on?
It's pretty hard to poke any holes in it. Like, everything under the hood as far as quality contact has been improved. And usually with that, you would see some sort of decline in either contact rate, and that manifests in a higher strikeout rate, or just, a change in plate approach that, changed the profile of a hitter. But that really hasn't happened with Peter Armstrong. The barrel rate has gone from 7.4%, which was good, and why we were excited about him and thought that there could be some potential here, and why people did like him as sort of an upside outfielder 2-3 pick. That's now 13.6%, which is why he's now like one of the best outfielders in the game. The hard hit rate has also gone up to closer to 40% from 36.5%, which was also, pretty good. Just to improve on that is, even more impressive. And the K rate has stayed in line. It's at 24%. It was 23% last year. The swing strike rate is a bit elevated at 15.8%. So that would make me think that, there are some more strikeouts in the future coming, but we do see guys with, there are these type of hitters. One that comes to mind is, on Baltimore, third baseman currently injured. Why can't I think of his name?
You're stumping me right now.
Yeah. Don't know.
Colton Cowser?
No.
Let's see. That would be.
But
Jordan Westbrook.
Jordan Westbrook. Don't know why I couldn't think of that. I guess guys that are injured just leave my mind.
He's on my IL.
Yeah.
But you have an excuse, Steve.
But guys that like him that have high swing strike rates, and are aggressive outside the zone, which Pete Crow-Armstrong is at a 48.8% O swing percentage. That's pretty crazy high. But guys do have higher swing strike rates. Like last year, Westberg had a 13.2% swing strike rate and only a 22% strikeout rate. So there are guys that do take swings and misses, but have a good two-strike approach to avoid those strikeouts. And that's something that I think Pete Crow-Armstrong can do. That chase rate is concerning. 48.5%. That's like, close to like Javi Baez levels, as far as O swing and chase it and swinging outside the zone. But that is a young person's skill. You're able to, when you have youth and you're able to make contact outside of the zone, that's something that you can do while you're young. It ages poorly, and that doesn't really matter for Pete Armstrong right now. At this time, it was 23. So there's really not much not to like here. I have one share. It was a league that I had Judge in, so I waited on my second outfielder, and then I got Pete Armstrong rather than dipping into like the 80s and 70s ADP. And that team is in first. That's my TGFBI team that's doing pretty well all year. So
very nice.
There's really not much to like. I don't know. What about you? Are you fully bought in? Do you believe this?
So is his O contact high as well? Because I know that, citing Eno from way back in the day, he talked about the young man chasing is often offset by bat speed, and Crow-Armstrong's bat speed is kind of run of the mill. So that's the only thing is like when you see one, I mean, I guess the thing keeping him from being like a Kyle Tucker, to throw a real lofty comparison of his teammate out, is the plate discipline. And that's kind of my brand, because a lot of leagues I play in like dock for strikeouts. So that has me a little bit concerned, but overall, I mean, he definitely strikes me as a guy who's, like I said, a breakout in all caps. Like I fully expect top 60 ADP in next year's draft. Like it seems very, very reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, if we're drafting now, he's probably going top three rounds at worst, right?
For sure.
It's 58% O contact and 45.8% O swing. I think I said 48 before, but still high. It's bottom 1 percentile of the league. So he chases more than anybody.
The only thing I'll throw caution is I do think there's just going to be some natural regression for anybody who's on a heater. The team itself is going to have a cold patch. Like, I mean, they've been almost like the Guardians a couple years ago when it was like such a hot start that was kind of unexpected. It is a good offense, no question. And that like Council and how aggressive they are, like I'm not knocking that the Cubs are legit, but last year Crow-Armstrong had, some of like his August last year, he had a 933 OPS and, 4 homers, 6 steals. He also had a month where he hit 145 with a 395 OPS. So like there's volatility in his profile. I know he's made big strides since last year, like you've talked about with like the barrel rate and just everything has looked better. So I think this is real growth, but I also don't think he's just going to cruise through this season with like a 280, 850 OPS every single month. Like if there is volatility in the plate discipline, that usually lends itself to like, even like a Tommy Edman, who it's like a good player, but I don't know that I'm ready to like anoint him as like an OF1 that I would draft in like the first 3 rounds next season, because I expect there will be a lull here, but I could be wrong on that. I was wrong on him in draft season. So I don't want to get Uncle Ted too riled up in the comments. Also shout out Eddie for helping us with Jordan Westberg there on that brain fart collectively. But on your question, Eddie, on Carlos Rodon or Christian Walker, independent of needs, I would go Carlos Rodon there. I think pitching is always hard to find. And I think Walker, you're kind of buying the bounce. Rodon, I feel like there's good stuff. I don't know, Steve, if you've got different thoughts.
Hung jury here. I would go Walker.
Okay.
I think that there are ways to get close to Rodon's production.
All right, a lot of first basemen. A lot of first basemen.
I think Walker's a good bounce back.
Okay, there you go.
But yeah, I'll go.
Moving to Pete Crow-Armstrong's teammate, Matt Shaw. This was one I rushed to add, Steve. So this is my one near and dear to me. But some background on Shaw, because I know that people liked him. People were very excited when he broke camp with the Cubs. In the 18 games he had at the start of the season, just a 172 average and got sent down. The player himself, age 23, as is Pete Crow-Armstrong. That'll be a familiar theme. 60 power, 60 speed. It's the hit tool that lags behind those a little bit. But last year in 121 games in the minors, had 21 homers, 31 steals, and hit 284. And his average has always looked good in the minors, which it's the minors. But if the average comes along with what seems like really real power speed, this is a pretty exciting one as well for the Cubs. He just got called back up. I think Monday might have been his first game in action, but he's now three days in a row, 3 games in a row that has looked really good. And it looked good in the minor league stint, which led to him getting called back up. So Steve, talk about kind of under the hood, because there were some changes Matt Shaw made that seem pretty tangible that make you think this could be a breakout about to happen.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Shout out to PitchCon guest John, who was on early in the season. He's been active in the Pitcher List Discord. He's been in the Rates and Barrels Discord. I see him. He talked a lot about Matt Shaw's swing when he was getting hype or late in draft season because it came out that Shaw was going to make the team. Right, it was announced that he was going to Japan. People were exciting, obviously, with the impressive prospect pedigree that Shaw has, like you were talking about. High profile, came over. Just was a hype prospect, and probably one of the guys that I think the fantasy industry had a lot of helium on towards the end of the draft season. He was saying that Shaw's swing and mechanics were just very, I don't want to say bad, but different. They were odd. There's a lot of movement. If you watch him swing, it is a weird looking swing. It's very different.
Yeah, I think he had talked about how he was trying to speed up his leg kick to account for the increase of velocity in the majors. And I think this was something Scott White was talking about too, that just like a leg kick is a volatile thing as well. You know what I mean? That like timing is so important for a leg kick and a step. So to make a tweak like that coming into the majors, it kind of backfired on him, right?
Well, yeah, he was, and John was saying his prior stance before going back down and making some changes was going to lead to some issues, and it clearly did. I'm not saying that was the only reason why he struggled, but it didn't work. And then he went back down to the minors, made some adjustments, and came back. And recently talked about with Marquee Sports. His new swing that is more of a recent change in AAA. He reduced that leg kick, right? Like Uncle Ted was saying, he looked like Kyron Paris before, which he kind of was. Now that he has a lot less noise, a smaller leg kick, there's
right.
Better, I'm not a swing coach. I'm not going to pretend to be, but there is a change that obviously the Cubs wanted to make, and he made that recently in AAA. And in the last 6 games in AAA before getting called up, he had 5 home runs. So sure, it's probably some confirmation bias to that change, but clearly there's something that's clicking here. And he's looked better since coming back up with the Cubs here. And who knows, like this guy clearly has the skills to stick, and is someone that if they make an adjustment like that, and the raw skills that they have, I'm automatically interested. That's always a plus too. Like a guy's willing to change, right? Like I could see it in the beginning of the year. He had all this success in AAA. He made the team. It's like, okay, this has worked for me. I haven't struggled at any level. Why am I going to change anything? This is yes, it's different, but this is how I do it. Okay, you see the struggles of you come up, you're like, all right, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to make an adjustment, and he did. Well, not a lot of guys are willing to do that, so that has me interested in already. So I like Matt Shaw. He was kept, we have 1 minor slot in my home league. He was kept, but I think he'll be an interesting add back this weekend in Fab if he wasn't already added, because I think that news came out probably late last week, so he may have been part of some Fab runs from this Sunday, but definitely interested. And that change has me impressed and wanting to give Matt Shaw another chance.
Yeah, and he's hitting 9th in the order right now, but I think there's room to move up. He's got some roster flexibility, at least in some leagues. 41% rostered on Yahoo, and yeah, the fact that 3 games since being called back up, he has 2 steals, and he didn't run at all or he didn't steal any bases in the first 18 games. So yeah, all systems go, I think, for Shaw. It's a great one for upside. And the Cubs should keep running and keep scoring. He's kind of in that mini leadoff spot right now. Jacob Wilson moving right along, another 23-year-old, another guy who is kind of surging up the batting order for the Athletics. Yeah, wow. What a start to the season, hitting 341. He himself has an OPS that's in the 850 territory, 5 homers, 4 steals. And the mind-blowing one for me is only 10 strikeouts all year, right next to his 10 walks that he has. So Jacob Wilson, Steve, I do not have shares, unfortunately. My brother beat me to the punch on our home
Yeah, I
league
feel like this
forum.
guy would be great in your league with all
Oh
the
yeah,
single categories and all that. Yeah.
yeah. We kind of reward each singles. We reward for walks. We dock for strikeouts. So a Jacob Wilson is chef's kiss. And even in traditional 5x5, though, you got to pay attention to a guy who is kind of demonstrating nice balance of power and speed, yet the hit tool of the very, very best that usually you roster, even if it's a one cat specialist like Luis Arias. So where's Wilson fall on like the broad assessment here? And if you looked at him next to some of those true hit tool specialists, how's he kind of stack up to those guys?
I'm surprised he has 10 walks. He didn't walk till April 23rd. So basically in 5 weeks or 4 weeks here, he's got 10 walks. So interesting that's happened. He's had a stretch where he walked like even 3 games in a row early in May, which is pretty impressive because that streak was pretty crazy
Right.
to start the season. I'm pretty interested in Jacob Wilson because yes, the first thing that I think of is Stephen Kwan and Luis Arias, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like Stephen Kwan's been a great fantasy player. Luis Arias has been useful and it still is useful um, in his own way. Ironically, when you sort the swing speed leaderboard on Savant, it's Arias, Kwan, and Wilson in a row. Those are the 3 slowest swings in baseball, but the 3 shortest, so quickest to the
Good
ball.
combo.
But what has me somewhat more interested in Wilson is the fact that this guy was a 6th overall pick. His dad played in baseball, like who was his dad? Jack Wilson, I think. It was like a utility guy back in like the late
Didn't know.
90s, early 2000s, right? So there is a pedigree here with this bat to ball skill. And I think I would lean towards giving him more of the high end Stephen Kwan power than like the Luis Arias 2 to 4 peak power, right? He's already hit a ball 108.5 miles an hour. That's harder than Kwan or Arias have hit in their career. So they're I'm not saying that this is like a 320 homer hitter, but I think this is like 12 homer power, which is not nothing with a guy that has this bat to ball skill and is able to make this much contact and run such a high batting average. Like this is a useful fantasy player. I think he would be rookie of the year in the AL right now. I don't know if there's anyone else really that would challenge him for it, unless there's someone missing. The way I sort of built this rundown was looking at rookie WAR. So, I think that Wilson is that's the type of player, but I think he has a higher ceiling than potentially either of those guys. And I know Kwan has had some great fantasy seasons, and we were big on Kwan. And I know Alex Chamberlain, was early on him and part of that Friend Prospect series that threw us onto that. But this is sort of Kwan with some more pedigree and maybe some better power. Who knows? When it gets warm in Sacramento, where the A's play their home games, maybe he taps into some more of that power. It should be. It's definitely an interesting follow, and I'm pretty sad that I don't have any shares. It looks like a really fun fantasy player.
Yeah, last year across multiple levels in the minors, 7 home runs in just 53 games, so a 236 ISO for Wilson. And I mean, it looks like projections kind of range, like you were saying, Steve, like 12, maybe as high as 15 homers. The speed is kind of interesting that he already has 4 steals because he doesn't like grade out. Like he's a 45 prospect grade on speed. His sprint speed isn't that impressive, but he's 4 for 4 on the base paths so far. So yeah, like a 15 or 12 to 15, 8 steals, and a really, really good hit tool. Now that he's batting leadoff, I think that's actually can't be understated because you need the run contribution just in like a 5x5. So yeah, I like it for Wilson. Moving right along to kind of a similar build here, middle infield specialist Chase Meidroth, 23 years old once again. Came over to the White Sox in the Crochet deal, right?
Yes,
As
that's
kind
right.
of the main piece. Yeah. So when Meidroth got called up, it got my attention because he's tailor-made for my home leagues with kind of those contact specialists. Strikes out a little bit, but he takes a ton of walks, which is relevant even for 5x5 because now he has also moved up to hitting leadoff every day for the. I know it's a terrible kind of run context situation, but the first couple of weeks Meidroth came up, he was hitting 267. He had just one steal. And then I believe it was a blister or something that put him on the shelf for like a week and a half. Since he's come back, hitting 313, a 796 OPS, and most notably, 5 steals in his last 6 games. So that is not necessarily what we expected from Meidroth, but I don't think that you can call 5 steals in 6 games a complete anomaly. So if he is indeed running, now you're kind of looking at, I don't want to say Jacob Wilson. I don't think he has the 12 to 15 homers, but maybe like a 5 to 10 homer guy with what could be like 15, 20 steals if he keeps this going. And he should hit around like 290 as like a true average hit tool. So I'm interested in Meidroth. This is probably the least, or definitely the least rostered guy that we've talked about. And I think he's going to be kind of a fab, expensive one if he's not already rostered just because of how much he's been running lately. But yeah, in like your Yahoo leagues, 11% rostered. But what do you think on Meidroth, Steve? He's got 4 multi-hit games in his past 6, so he is scorching hot right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm as interested. I don't play in any of those leagues where his value sort
OBP
of
or
plays
anything.
up, but yeah, in OBP it's definitely more interesting, right? He does take more walks. We have him in our dynasty league. Scooped him like as like a part of the prospect draft. So definitely plays there. I think he's a fine play as like a MI fill in. It does seem like the power, I think, is more on the low end, like a 1.4% power rate. It's only hit a ball 107. Did hit a ball in AAA last year, 108. So I don't think there's more than like 5 to 7 homer power there. But and I think that the batting average is running a bit high. He's running a 347 BABIP right now, which is pretty high. But he does have good speed and steals bases and makes good contact. So maybe he'll run on the higher end of BABIPs, but I think it's more of like a poor man's Arias, maybe with a little more speed. But I
Eight
don't know.
steals already is just
Yeah,
blowing my
yeah.
mind.
The steal, and that he's running now. Maybe as he's getting more comfortable. That's crazy. He doesn't have that good a sprint speed, but he could just be a good
Right.
base runner, right? And he's young, so. And also, just the fact that, and I know it's the White Sox, and we make fun of how bad they are. Like, they targeted him in a trading their best asset, right? That says something that a team wanted you and then played you relatively early into the new season. So there may be something there that doesn't pop off on a Savant Statcast or Fangraphs or Pitcherless page, right? That
Mhm.
that an organization likes and sees that we may necessarily not. So, yeah, I think it's a fine play if you need like a little bit of help on speed and potentially fill in for middle infield.
Okay, I like it. I'm higher on him. I
Yeah,
think I've got him
that's fair.
somewhere around like the Chandler Simpson. I mean, he's not going to go Billy Hamilton on the base paths, but I really do think he's a 300 hitter. And yeah, if OBP league or a points league, kind of he's under rostered at just 11%. But yeah, overall of the names we've talked about, he's kind of a notable tier or 2 down, but definitely a name to have on the radar. So that's Chase Meidroth. We've got 2 more hitters, one good, one bad. and then a handful of pitchers we're going to get to, but we got to take our first ad break. We'll be right back after this. All right. So, Steve, moving to the catcher position, Drake Baldwin. There was a lot of buzz about him and Dalton Rushing, I recall, at this like kind of end of spring on these two catchers that could be, manna from the heaven for a struggling position. But you kind of wake up and catcher is kind of loaded this year. There's a lot of good options. And Drake Baldwin is one that it seems like the talent is super impressive. I mean, there was prospect pedigree. People were excited when they saw that there was going to be opportunity here. But Sean Murphy is in the situation, and that is something we have to kind of wrestle with. So 29 games for Baldwin, hitting 357 with a 583 slug, 5 home runs, 14% barrel rate. Talk to me about like what you're seeing with the actual talent, and then what you think on fantasy implications given kind of the roster conundrum here.
I mean, what's there not to like? 357, 400, 583 slash line, 5 homers, 15 points. The K rate's amazing at 15.6%, a 13.9% barrel rate to back up that power, 61.5% hard hit percentage, chase rate a little bit high at 33.5%, but that's not too bad. That's, probably lower third of the league. But yeah, like these skills look legit, and it's crazy. Like he didn't have Baldwin had a lot of hype because Murphy got injured in spring training, or like, was it the first game? I forget. Last year, Murphy was injured in like the first game, and I think Murphy was injured in spring training this year. And it came out that Baldwin was gonna, run with the job at least for the beginning, and he really didn't get off to that good a start. Like he didn't hit his first homer till April 16th. Next one wasn't until the end of April, so he didn't really like take the job and run with it. But it was when Murphy came back now that he has basically, multi hits in 5 or 6 games since May 7th, right? In the last week or so, or last 2 weeks. So the skills are not in question. It's just the playing time. The Braves have done this with catchers before. They've played 2 catchers and basically split. They've done that with Murphy and Travis d'Arnaud. They had William Contreras back in the day, but before they traded him to the Braves or traded him to the Brewers. They've split their catchers' playing time in a way that's been detrimental to their fantasy value, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It also is a bit more complicated because now, in the last few years, Ozuna has reestablished himself as a premier hitter, and he takes up all the DH at bats. When Ozuna wasn't going, like d'Arnaud and Murphy were in the lineup together because one of them would DH. Now that those at bats aren't going anywhere to Ozuna. I know he hasn't had as amazing of a year, but it's still only May 21st here as we record this. They're not going to give away Ozuna DH at bats other than a rest day here and there, even with a slow-ish start. I mean, he's still got an 877 OPS for Ozuna. I guess he's been heating up a little bit recently. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those at bats aren't going anywhere. I wonder if the path to more playing time for Baldwin is just to get more of like a 60-40 playing time versus Sean Murphy,
right?
Which could happen. I know Murphy's popped 8 home runs. I think he did have like a 2 or 3 homer game or something like that when he first came back. But other than that, like it looks more like a low average, high power guy
against righties. Yeah.
Which, that is strong side of the platoon, right?
Well, it's unlucky because Murphy has 5 of his 8 homers are against righties. But Baldwin lines up to be strong side of the platoon, right?
He does. Yeah, he does, which is good. But I think maybe that's the way that he could go. Like Murphy's been a streaky player throughout his career. I've always liked Murphy too, and there's still some things to like about him. And he has a 13.6% barrel rate, 44% hard hit rate. Like Murphy looks good under the hood. Maybe there's a trade, but I doubt you want to trade those assets, like especially for the Braves that have playoff aspirations. Like getting catchers regularly rest is important. I can see them sort of doing a 50-50 split, which I think is a good thing for Baldwin, because I think when Murphy came back, it was more like, okay, maybe it'll be like 60%, 70% Murphy, 30% Baldwin, but there's no reason they're going to want to get Baldwin as many at bats as they can with just how good he's been. And,
Yeah.
the Braves have started winning again recently. I know they got off that putrid start. I think they're above over 500 after a long time. So, they're going to want to keep his bat in the lineup is my long-winded point. It just may not be enough playing time to be a full 1C.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, it just seems like a catch or two, unfortunately, but yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Like Uncle Ted said, until Murphy gets hurt again, and then
Yeah,
you never cheer for that. But that
unfortunate, but yeah.
for fantasy purposes would clear some things up, because
Yeah.
sky's the limit. If he had every like regular playing time at bats, I mean, we'll close with that discussion. Do you put him as like a top 8 catcher?
I don't see why not. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of catchers that are,
the top is cold, kind of.
yeah,
Uh,
like, all right. So I'm just sorting by, and this is not necessarily the best way, but I'm sorting by WRC plus among guys with 100 at bats.
uh-huh.
It's pretty crazy. Does he not have 100 at bats yet? He may not.
So like Cal Raleigh
Yeah,
would be
Take
ahead.
Cal Riley, Will Smith.
Will Smith would be ahead. Hunter Goodman. I think I might
Mm,
go Baldwin over him if we knew it was healthy, but like I don't think he's eclipsing either the Contreras.
What about Langoliers or Hunter
That's kind of a
or
good
Drake
that's kind of a
Baldwin?
good spot. I think I would lean Baldwin there if I knew it was like 4 out of 5 games,
I
but
think I would still lean
that's a good one.
Langoliers. There's a lot of nice changes with Langoliers this year. He really cut the K rate. Looks like he could be breaking out,
Okay.
and it's similar to there. What about Logan O'Hoppe or Drake Baldwin?
Baldwin. I mean, Ohapi feels. I'm worried. There's some Mike Zunino stuff going there with
Yeah.
just strikeout rate and everything. But Ohapi is. I've got a share or two, and it's been good when it's come. So we got to keep rolling though. We got a whole set of pitchers coming up, but I wanted to end on the dull note, Steve. Like maybe one of the only negatives here, since we're checking in on the youngsters. Talk me off the ledge here on Junior Caminero, who. Yes, he has the 8 homers, but after kind of a good start, strong start to the very beginning of the year, hit 232 in April, 180 in May. He sat twice in the last 5 games. What are we thinking with Caminero? He doesn't have a huge track record in the majors. I think a lot of people are frustrated at the slump. So, yeah, do you think there's any cause for legitimate concern, or can we give him as long of a leash as you do trusted veterans with like a more proven MLB track record?
Yeah, I'm not dropping him or anything like that.
No.
Um, it is frustrating and disappointing. I mean, the 8 homers are still nice. He also has 3 steals, which again, a plus. There are a lot of things to like, right? Like it's elite bat speed. It's O'Neal Cruz and him. They have the best bat speed in the league. He's hitting the ball hard 50% of the time. Great. Okay, what's not so great? How he's hitting the ball. And a lot of the new metrics we haven't gotten into it. Maybe we'll do an episode on it soon at Baseball Savant with the swing breakdown, the new leaderboard is the swing path and attack angle. And Caminero looks like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. basically. He has a very flat attack angle, and a flat swing path. That's going to lead to not ideal contact locations, essentially. It's why he has so many ground balls. It's a 53% ground ball rate. That's not horrible, but it's not
Not good.
it's not good. Um, the whiffs. Why I love guys like Junior Caminero. It's like guys that can hit the ball this hard, don't strike out that much. Like I'm automatically a sucker for. It's why I love Lad Jr. And it gets me into trouble when there may not be able to translate some of that um, bat speed and raw power into game power. That being said, he's just 21 years old. Like there's so much talent there that I'm still willing to buy into it and would buy low on him this year. So as frustrating as it's been and as obvious as those red flags or blue flags, if you want to call it, from his Savant page, right? Like the 1 degree, the 1 percentile launch angle sweet spot, the 18 percentile squared up percentage. He does chase a lot too. That's not necessarily something that I felt would, be a problem in this game, but it's sort of counteracting with the low swing strike rate and good whiff percentage and leading to a 20% strikeout rate, where I thought that maybe, a little bit better and you could bring that back down and hope for some better power. He's still just 21. I think, he's a passionate player. Like you saw him in Dominican's Winter League this year. Like I could see him going on a heater and figure that out. And like, was talking about this on Rates and Barrels, like as amazing as these new metrics are, like the swing path and the ideal attack angle, that's probably more descriptive than it is predictive. Like, yes, of course, like the ideal attack angle guys, those are the guys that have been hitting well.
Sure. That's why they're
that's
getting.
They're hitting the ball at the right spots. Like, of course, but that's going to change over the course of the season. So, yes, it's concerning, and there are clear flaws in the swing and things that he needs to improve on. But the raw tools are still something that I'm willing to bet on, with how hard he hits the ball, how fast he swings the bat, and how good a contact he makes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, his profile just kind of lends itself to a guy that you expect to be streaky in a way. And there is some stuff like his swing and miss is down this year. So he is making contact. It's just not the contact that we want. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as someone who's rostering him, like obviously not in like a 15 team, but I think in like 12 team, 14 team, I will probably go until like the All-Star break, honestly. And then I don't think he's just an out and out can't cut list, depending on what's out there. If it continues to be like 200, just because at some point, it's not like you're waiting for a rebound for someone that we've seen have like a 30 home run season, who's, done it multiple years. Like, I think there is a little bit of questions of like, does he need to adjust to the adjustments that were made to him or something like that? But yeah, it's too soon for that. And I think that the talent and what you could be passing on is way too extreme to be like freaking out. I know he is being dropped in some leagues right now. But yeah, that's Caminero, and that wraps up our hitters. But we're gonna get a couple pitchers here before second ad break. And the first one, kind of topical because last night he dealt again, Logan Henderson, who is kind of stumping the industry a little bit because he's got this low velocity four-seamer that sits at 93, doesn't have great extension, doesn't have a great ground ball rate, and is primarily a two-pitch guy with four-seam and changeup. But he has this, speaking of like a vertical attack angle or approach angle, very deceptive four-seam and change. And last night he worked in the cutter. It's been a confusing thing to assess, at least in some of those like shallower leagues, because this is now 2 starts that Henderson has had out of his 3 that are immediately met with, is he going to get sent back down? The Brewers are kind of like the Phillies in that they are, you're starting to look ahead and think, oh, they're going to have a pretty crowded pitching rotation, honestly, like with certain guys like coming back pretty soon. like Brandon Woodruff. So some of these are, just those are the variables. But the reality is Henderson is absolutely dealing. We've seen 3 starts. He's got 23 strikeouts over 16 innings, a 169 ERA, and a .81 whip. And I believe he gets the Pirates next on the road. And I think even after that, there's a couple soft matchups. So I do think, I went out and added him, Steve. I know that he's like one of the most added players over the past week. But wanted to hear your thoughts because we haven't talked about Henderson yet. And this seems like kind of an oddly shaped pitching breakout. Again, 23 years old. So what do you make of Henderson?
Yeah, I mean, you can't knock a 39% strikeout rate and 6.8% walk rate. Like, that's my go-to thing. The first thing I look at when analyzing pitchers is strikeout minus walk. And that's as big of a check mark as you can get, and gold star next to that. I know that, change up first guys and stuff models always look a bit iffy. And in the back of my mind, what Eno has been bringing up when talking about, Saris of the Athletics been talking about Logan Henderson is Chris Paddock, right? We saw how good Chris Paddock's first year was when he had that amazing change up and the fastball was looking good next to it, and was constantly trying to find that third pitch that never came. And we saw the floor of Chris Paddock after, the league sees that. But that still took a year, and who knows, Logan Henderson may be able to adapt better than Paddock did. But for now, like, this is like all systems go. Like, this looks great. Like, I don't care that he only has 2 pitches. I don't care what the stuff numbers say. I'm looking at these results over these 3 starts now, and would want him everywhere. Like, the swing strike backs it up at 14%. Yes, it is 86% fastball and changeup. But like you said, he did mix in that cutter to lefties, which is another weapon, and is important to have. And we've all heard Nick on this podcast network talk about how he wants everyone to have a cutter, or just add a cutter to everyone's arsenal, or where it fits. So it's definitely interesting. Definitely someone that I would want. And again, like, the Brewers do great with these guys. Their rotation is deep. I think they sent down Tobias Myers. They're calling up Carlos Rodriguez. Jacob Mizorowski is knocking on the door and looks absolutely amazing. Like you said, Brandon Woodruff could be coming back soon. I think he just restarted his rehab assignment after tweaking an ankle during that rehab. Jose Quintana is currently on the IL. Nestor Cortez, 60-day IL. Aaron Savali is there. He's on the 15-day IL. Had a strained hamstring like early in the season, and is still out. So who knows when he could be back. So it's crowded, but I think there is opportunity. And the Brewers aren't, this sort, like, if this guy's running 38% strikeout rates, like, he's going to be in the rotation.
Right.
So I'm in on Logan Henderson is my synopsis there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like it. Somebody we don't have on here, Ryan Weathers, who came back, has looked good. Henderson or Weathers, Steve, if just kind of point blank, what's your thought there?
Man,
We've seen a little bit more strikeouts from Henderson, but Weathers,
yeah,
we were so excited about. He's got more velocity.
This is like a stuff versus results question. And even though I am super excited about Weathers, and he's looked good in his starts, and maybe he's been a little bit limited since he's only gone 5 innings in both. And they were both against the Cubs, which is impressive, right? 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 earned runs, both off solo homers. That's no easy feat in coming back. And the stuffs look good, right? Like, the velocities held the reason why we were interested in spring training is Weathers was throwing 97. He's throwing 97 again this year. That being said, I think I gotta go Henderson, just because of the results have been so good. And I hope that Weathers could have starts as good as the next 3 where Henderson already has it. I don't know, but maybe, like, hey, if we're trying to project forward, Weathers stuff it would be a reason to believe in that. So
For sure. The process says Weathers probably, but yeah,
yeah,
Henderson's got the IVB on the fastball and everything. So it doesn't, it's not like this is it's not unfounded,
it's
right?
not
Like the
he's
swing and
not a
miss.
junk artist. Yeah, like
Y-
the fastball and changeup are very good.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. Those are good. Two great names though, next to each other. Okay. The other pitcher we were going to talk about is Mick Abel, who is similar to the Brewers. The Phillies got a lot going on. Abel, like Henderson, came up, had a fantastic start, and then was sent down, I think, the day after. And Abel is one that kind of grades out as above average fastball, above average slider, curveball. So former first round pick from 2020. And yeah, that the one game that we saw, I think it was Sunday, looked really good. Granted, it was against Pittsburgh, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs, and Abel is down. But yeah, I mean, I know they got Painter is kind of not far off. It seems like he's going to be kind of a fab buster, but Abel, 23 years old, he's got awesome extension. He himself sits 97 on the fastball. So, wow, what a just wealth of pitching they have in Philly right now. But
Mhm.
what do you think of Abel, Steve? Obviously, it's not super actionable like today, but I think we have to assess the talent in the guy because it's probably not far off before we see him again in some capacity.
Yeah, they're a bit crowded with Ranger Suarez back. Tyrone Walker's still in the rotation. He basically took Nola's spot. I don't think Nola's going to be out too long. It seems so. It was like a sprained ankle. So I guess it's, as long as it's not like, like a few week recovery for that. As long as it's just minor, I think he may just miss a start or two. And then Walker would go back to the bullpen. But yeah, I really wish that they kept, and maybe it was just timing with when his rotation spot came up. I know Walker went today, I believe on Wednesday. So maybe if it is a bit longer, they'll line him up and get him on schedule and start him over Walker. At least that's what I would hope. But yeah, it looks interesting. I did see a funny tweet though. Someone was like, to be fair, Mick Abel is used to pitching to AAA lineups, and he got to face that in the Pirates over the weekend. So, I think that he's definitely interesting. The skills look good. Like Lance Brzezowski had a nice breakdown. He basically started throwing more strikes. His strike percentage went from 59 in 2024 up to 64%, which doesn't seem like much, but that's a big jump, and 64% is basically average. So, there's definitely some improvements, which, back the improved results in AAA as well. I think there was maybe some adrenaline. His fastball was at 97 in his first start here, and he sat around like 95, 96 in AAA. So maybe might not be as good of a fastball going forward in non-debut games. Nick Pollock talks about that all the time, about adrenaline rising in MLB debuts, home openers, playoffs, things like that. So it's definitely interesting. I just wish there was a spot. I don't know if there's a spot. Eddie in the chat's asking, is Nola done? I don't know. I mean, it's been pretty bad. And like the thing with Nola, like even when he was peak Nola, like there was those weird years where he would just have a
Homer
4 or
prone.
5 ERA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a low whip, and just have like the worst luck known to man. As now he's getting older and is in his age 31 season, going to be 32 in a month. It may be tougher, especially if he's going to hover around a 24-25% strikeout rate. So I don't know if he's done, but I think he's done as a fantasy one, and may just be more of a back end sort of streamerish or Toby type of pitcher, someone that's on the back end of your rotation there.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. I mean, I think it's going to be, maybe a B grade version of the Nola that we've always known, just because he's never made a living off of like, flirting with 100 on velocity or anything. Like it's always been the curve. And yeah, it's been rough going early on, but I don't think he's falling out of like top 50 starting pitchers, even though it's looked really rough to date, but it's still Nola. He's 31 years old. I think he's always had kind of the ups and downs, and we're just seeing the downs. So this one, to me, says, don't overreact to that extreme. But yeah, I think that's well put, Steve. That the days of him being like an ace do seem like they're done. But yeah, they might be 6-man rotation. Like when you look at Wheeler, Sanchez, Luzardo, there's got to be a plan for Painter. Nola's coming back. Mick Abel, like Ranger Suarez, like you said, Steve, like they've got good problems, but problems. And unfortunately that might be Abel who's kind of losing
For
out on
now,
that.
short term.
Yeah.
Those spots always clear themselves up. They'll be injuries, trade, whatever, performance.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Okay. Well, we got a few more pitchers to talk about, and we'll get to them right after this second ad break. Okay, so Steve, out in your neck of the woods, Will Warren, age 25. So we're finally getting a little bit older here. Oldest one we've
still
talked
rookie
about
eligible though. Yeah,
still rookie eligible, and man, kind of kicking myself because he was a name that credit to Nick Pollock. He was talking about him. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what the pitching situation. I think it was when he was talking about like Luis Heel in spring, and he was like, keep an eye on Will Warren. And then I know Nick was kind of slow to buy in, but this last outing, because his last 4 outings, he has been lights out. But it wasn't until this last one when he kind of continued the confidence in his secondaries and his breaking stuff and has looked really good that Nick on his SP roundups was like, this does seem like it could stick. He's going to be an asset throughout the rest of the season. I am in. There are still some question marks, but I am in. So yeah, the season line doesn't tell the full story. 46 innings, 4.05 ERA, 129 WHIP. But the last 4 outings, Steve, 34 strikeouts in 22 2/3 innings. And that's been with a sub 2.5 ERA. What do we make of Will Warren here? I think I missed the boat, and I'm kind of kicking myself on it, but this is impressive and feels like I don't know. It feels like it's kind of here to stay because the Yankees always have these ones, whether it's like a Nestor Cortez or a Luis Heel, that like every year they kind of just produce a stud out of thin air, and it seems like it's Warren this year.
And this is the type of pitcher that they thrive with. The Michael King, Clark Schmidt, sinker, sweeper, and find other stuff around it. What I think makes the difference and could be a game changer at Will Warren is the stuff around it is this amazing curveball that he's found in these last few starts. Lance Brzezowski, we plug him every episode. Go read his daily lineup, daily roundup of breaking down changes and a few interesting pitches. It's more, it's like the SP roundup, just less guys and more in detail and more focused on like the actual changes that they're making with their pitch mix and pitch shape. So basically, Lance said in April he threw his curveball just 13% of the time to left-handed hitters in 2-strike situations. Over the last 4 starts, which those starts, like you said, have been amazing, he's up to 33% usage, and the pitch is a 56% whiff rate and a 52% chase rate. It's his best pitch graded by Stuff Plus on Fangraphs. He's also using the 4-seam more against lefties. So this is a guy that's figuring it out, it seems. It's the prototypical Yankee build, like all these guys like Wesneski, Michael King, Clark Schmidt, they all come from the Yankees and have this sort of build. And it looks like Will Warren, at least in this run, looks like he's figuring it out. I did grab him in the home league prior to this start, and definitely am holding on to him for a while. I think, unfortunately, I dropped him in our Dynasty League early in the season.
I thought you were going to say upcoming opponents is kind of tough too. He's at Coors, and then I think after
at
that,
Coors is
not what it usually is.
No.
If it warms up. Yeah, no, I think you roll them out at Coors. I think even after that though, it's like I don't have it right in front of me, but it's a tough run of games, like 2 or 3 in a row where it's like I want to say maybe the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's at Dodgers, and then I don't know beyond that. I'll try and look at the Yankees schedule here real quick. But yeah, at Coors, I'm absolutely starting him. Even at the Dodgers, if that's good, like you can't bench him with how he's been going.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, above average extension, pretty good ground ball rate. Yeah, I think it's why not? I was just gonna peek real quick at roster rate, 37%. So he's another one that's right in that zone with like Logan Henderson. How about that combo? What would you go with between those two?
Man,
they're tough ones, man.
Yeah. I think I would go Warren. I think I would go Warren.
Okay. All right. I was leaning Henderson, but yeah, I think Warren has the better depth of arsenal, no doubt about that. And the velo is kind of a wash, but I think you got to like the overall well, there's pretty good movement on that sinker too. Yeah, that's tough. Maybe Warren is the right call there. Okay, well, we've got Jack Leiter next, another 25-year-old. This one is not as jumping out on the back of the baseball card. Over 36 innings at 4.25 ERA, 111 WHIP is above average. The K minus BB not looking good, Steve, with the 18.5% strikeout rate, 11% walk rate. Leiter was one. I feel like you've been close on this one last year and also this year. Talk to me about Leiter. Should we still hold out hope? He kind of feels like he's getting into this, like, kind of, I don't want to say Lodolo-esque because he's the ultimate roller coaster, but Leiter is like, we keep kind of billing him as the next, and it's like he's not turning that corner. Do we think that there's reason to think he will this season?
He's like my junior Caminero of pitchers, right? Like this is the high stuff, low command guy that I'm a sucker for all the time. Saras at The Athletic did an amazing article that came out, I think, Monday or Tuesday about young pitchers that have good stuff and poor results. And basically, had a whole intro how last year, if you look at pitchers that had young pitchers that had good stuff, poor results, the majority of them improved throughout the rest of the season. There was essentially a list that you wanted to shop from, and Leiter is on that list. He has elite stuff and horrible command. And the question for me is he Dylan Cease or is he Edward Cabrera? And there is, a
Cabrera's been looking better, by the way. Cabrera's been looking better.
Yeah.
Point taken, though. Yeah.
Among pitchers with 30 innings pitched, he has the 6th best stuff plus, the 4th worst location plus. Like, and it's the fastball that's he basically can't command. Like, there's a great breakdown in the article of it. You could see on Savant the pitch plots, like the fastball locations are just either down the middle or like waist pitch, which is crazy for a fastball. You'd think that would be what he could command. But he started to throw the slider more in the last few starts, which he does have better command of. He's added a sinker that I think maybe could help play the fastball up, and also maybe potentially can control that a little bit more and have more command over it. That would be a huge plus if he's able to have a hard pitch that he does have that command over. So I think that Jack Leiter will eventually be a really good pitcher in the majors. I just don't know when it will be. But I want to sort of hold on, or at least have, anytime there's a favorable start, like I've been adding him back in leagues. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be there for it, essentially. And because I think it's coming, I just don't know when. It may not even be this year. He does have a pretty favorable schedule coming up at the White Sox and versus St. Louis in his next 2 starts. So I'm just going to hold them through that and find out. And if not, you can just move on. And then also a note.
Yeah.
he was really good the first 2 starts. Got left his second start early where he was dealing versus the Reds with the blister, and the few starts back were pretty rough. So maybe there were still some lingering issues there. Working with the feel, like blisters and finger issues for pitchers sometimes could be troublesome, and we may not know about it, right? Like, you think it's just a blister. Oh yeah, 15 days you'll be back and no problem. But guys need to build up these calluses on their hands to not deal with that. So maybe he was still fighting through it, just able to pitch, and it's getting better. But again, that's just speculation. But long story short, I believe in Leiter and want to be there for when I think he breaks out, because I think he will.
Well, and even the last couple of starts were good against the Rockies and the Astros. It's just the K's haven't been there, and
that's what's surprising too. Yeah,
I was just actually looking because you talking about the blister and just overall, with the Rangers. Like, I don't know. To me, it's interesting that so DeGrom, right? Like, he has not been his strikeout self. Now that's been getting better. But
yeah, he had 9 again tonight, I think, in 7 innings.
Right. But similar pitchers to Leiter on like his savant, DeGrom is on there. And it's like, I wonder if kind of just development wise, they want him, especially with the blister, to like focus on the fastball. So I was trying to look at, it looks like the last 2 starts, when his strikeouts, last 3 starts, his slider usage dropped from like 35% down to 18, down to 20. And now it's kind of been creeping back up. So yeah, that White Sox game, he could go off this weekend. I don't know that he's even in like 12 team. Well, no, just 34% rostered. So yeah, I think this is one of the more actionable ones on the show, because I agree. And it looks like
he has low put away percentages on like all of his pitches too, for as much stuff that he has, right? Like a 14.5% put away, 14% on the slider. Relatively low whiff. Like on the fastball, the whiff is great at 22.5%, 23%, but only 25% on the slider. You want that to be a little bit higher. Like good batting average and all, but it looks like he needs to just find a way to like make his stuff work. Like he has the tools, he just doesn't have them like put together. Essentially, like he's like a he's like a box. He's like the box that you get from IKEA, like this amazing dresser that you don't have the instructions for it. You just need to figure it out on how to put it together. And it may take you a while, but it's eventually going to get there.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
How's that, I think, for an analogy.
It's very moving houses analogy, Steve. So it's relevant. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does with that mix of fastball and slider, because in the past 4 starts they've completely flipped. Up until this last start, he started going back to the slider more, which obviously is a great whiff pitch for him. So I think getting the curve and the slider back into the mix, the strikeout should fall, and it might start as soon as this weekend. So that's Leiter. I think that's an ad at just 30% rostered. So rounding out here with our last name of kind of the youngsters, AJ Smith-Shawver, and he is it feels like 3 years we've been talking about him. He's another one like Leiter and some of the other names that it's like we've been waiting, but just 22 years old. And Smith-Shawver has been effective in terms of the 2.33 ERA over 38 and 2/3 innings. It hasn't been elite on K-BB with 25% strikeout rate is great, but the walk rate is high at 10.6. But as you kind of noted, Steve, the last 4 starts is where it looks really good. 25 innings, 23 Ks, a 108 ERA, and a 0.84 whip. Is this the Braves' new Spencer Strider? What do we think of Smith-Shawver here? I know there was a lot of excitement last year before. What's it look like if everything works for Smith-Shawver?
Yeah, I was all about Smith-Shawver and thought he sort of was, because it was like when he was coming up was like peak Strider and like Braves sort of pop-up prospects. Like the Strider wasn't that big of a prospect as far as
Schwellenbach and Grant Holmes kind of overshadowed. And Yeah.
And then it kind of didn't click over the last 2 years, but it looks like it might be now. Like, he's been impressive in the last 4 starts. Um, like you were saying, he ditched the slider, which shout out again to Lance, in his first write-up on AJ Smith-Shawver this year. He was like, "Yeah, this slider is not good. I don't know what he's doing with it," and he's ditched it. Now he's focused primarily on fastball splitter. Does mix in a curve, but the splitter's really good. He has great extension. The fastball has good underlying metrics. It's got good IVB from a good release slot, and it looks like he's figuring it out. It's crazy because like you thought that like it was. I don't think he had the splitter in 20. He was 4-seam slider in 2023 when we were super excited about him coming up, and now it's like totally ditched the slider, added this split out of nowhere, and the split's really good. And it's sort of his bread and butter right now, and how he's breaking out. But like he's another guy like Warren, like Henderson, that I'm like, I don't see why you wouldn't want him and what there's not to believe in, and essentially to ride it for as long as possible. And I don't see like why this wouldn't be sustainable for Shawver. Yeah, sure, the Ks are a little bit high, but
The
the
walk.
walks are a little
Yeah.
bit high, but with his stuff and the fact that he throws a splitter, and maybe he could bump that ground ball rate up a bit more. I'm interested and believe in it essentially, and I'm glad this is happening. I've always liked Smith-Shawver. Wish I had more shares. It's funny, like that's how it works sometimes. Like Leiter, like maybe he struggles again this year, maybe even a little bit next year, but then eventually, like it's like, oh yeah, Jack Leiter, and then whoever picks him up for a good stream, and then he can go off for like the rest of his career. It's funny how pitching
You're too
works like
early.
that. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I know. That's the worst. Yeah, very nice. I don't have the shares. Only thing is, I wanted to look with Smith-Shawver. Is the command, was that what's been hampering him? Because let's see, in the yeah, I mean, kind of. Looks like, yeah, last year 4 walks per 9. Yeah, he's just always been double digits. So I think
Yeah.
that's the thing, is when you don't have that like 30% strikeout upside and the walks are that high, I feel like surely you can't keep these ratios going. But a lot of the stuff that you point to definitely valid on like the
Yeah,
pitch
and I
mix
mean
change and
he's
the
running an
extension.
8.6% homer to fly ball right now with a 38% ground ball rate. So a lot of fly balls that haven't
Mhm.
been homers. Like maybe there's some, and as it gets hot in Atlanta's another one of those places that play up for hitters in the summer.
Right. But
Maybe there's going to be
fastball
some more
change.
homers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a 22-year-old that we are all excited about, who has fastball change curve, like, while the result, you kind of ride the results while they're here. And if it gets rough and the walks get out of control, then you just kind of react accordingly. But yeah, that's Smith-Shawver. I think between Leiter and Smith-Shawver, we're more excited about Leiter. Is that fair?
Long term, Lighter. Short term, this year, I'd rather have Shawver.
Okay. I think I'm Leiter. I think he's about to
Okay.
go nuts here with this White Sox. Hopefully not the Cardinals. My
It's just
Cardinals rattling off a 9-game win streak, Steve.
yeah, that's also true. It's
That stopped, but
yeah.
it's still been better season.
I just can't believe like Lighter. What would you think Lighter's K percentage is right now? I don't know if you're looking at it, but
Yeah, I mean, I had game logged him, and it was like 4, 5, 6 strikeouts, like maybe 23.
18.5
Ugh.
with an
Yeah,
11% walk rate. So like
yeah,
based on that alone, like the K minus BB King. Shout out BB King.
sure. Um,
Like I would be like, I'm like, if you just read me this guy's like peripherals, I'm like, no, like absolutely not.
But I
But
think the
yet,
blister, like coming back from a blister,
sure,
he's probably
yeah.
so timid about using the swing and miss pitches, and now that
And
the
why we were
sliders.
super excited about him those first few games was it was 10 strikeouts, 1 walk. And then the first few games with the blister, it was 4-2, 4-3 as far as walks. So, and those outings were short. They were 3.5, 3 1/3, 4 1/3, 5 1/3, the first few. So yeah, I think that. Let's see how he does over these next few starts, because there could be there could be some excitement here coming. If he is rounding a corner.
That's valid. Well, Steve, do you want to just do the quick popcorn on a popcorn round on who's next in terms of the youngsters' potential call-ups? We probably don't have time to get into them, but
let's
save him.
Let's get a prospect guy on and save him.
It's a horizontal tease. It's a horizontal tease to next show. I love it. Well, next show we'll talk about prospects to stash. It is definitely that time of year. It's never. Seems like it gets early and earlier every year. Like it used to be like July, but now
Super 2 will be coming up. So
yes, exactly. But we'll save that for next episode. It's great to be back. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, Steve, congrats. Very, very excited for you guys, for your family. And we'll be back next week and should be back on our Ironman schedule of every week throughout the rest of the season. But until then, thanks for talking baseball with us, guys.
Thanks, guys. Later.